In history, there are events which stand as milestones, marking points of no return. Usually, however, such moments are only visible in hindsight. The Enabling Act passed by Hitler in 1933, followed by the Reichstag Fire Decree, were passed in Germany with little resistance and without public outcry. And even though those laws nullified the German Constitution and handed the power of life and death over all German citizens to one man, no one noticed that the line had been crossed. No one expected the chain of events which were destined to unfold. No one understood that Germany had already passed the point of no return. On December 15, 2011, on the 220-year anniversary of the ratification of the Bill of Rights, the U.S. Senate passed the National Defense Authorization Act of 2012. The bill officially gives the military the right to arrest anyone, U.S. citizen or otherwise, and to hold them indefinitely without trial. And since the government will not be required to produce one shred of evidence to support its claims, a mere accusation of belligerent activities is now all that is needed to declare you an enemy combatant and to make you disappear forever. You might hope that such powers will never be used, but history consistently proves otherwise. Throughout history, it has been the norm for political dissidents to be imprisoned and executed without due process. Throughout history, it has been the norm for political opponents to be taken from their homes in the middle of the night on charges of treason. When a government assigns itself the power to imprison and kill without trial, its motives are always the same. The United States is not an exception. If there was any lingering shadow of doubt in your mind that we have passed the point of no return, it should be gone now. If it isn't, then you aren't paying attention. We are in the 11th hour. We are witnessing the final stages of the police state falling into place. The stage is set, and we have very little time to influence the events that are headed our way. Right now, we must form a coalition across the left and the right. We must set aside our petty differences, no matter how important we think those differences are. We must unify against our common enemy. Our government has become a mere figurehead to the real powers that be. The Congress, the Senate, the executive branch do not represent our interest. They are bought and paid for. They are corrupt beyond all repair, and they deserve nothing less than to be arrested and tried for high treason. We the people have the power to take them down. It's in our hands right now. The government's power is derived solely from our obedience. Its wealth is derived solely from our labor. Its strength is actually our strength. Take it back from them. If in one unified strike we withdraw our money from the banks which have gorged on taxpayer dollars and cut off all payments, credit cards, loans, and taxes, if we refuse them our obedience and our labor and stand in defiance with clear intent, we will bring the machine to its knees. But we can only achieve this if we look past the artificial dividing line of left and right and act in unison as one people, as one nation, indivisible and focused on our goal. We must mobilize as if our lives and our children's lives depended on it, because they do. This is the 11th hour.
And when they say, I want my lawyer, you tell them, shut up.
Your time is
Get a
expired.
lawyer. You're an enemy combatant.
About something you've been involved with. You said that if the President of the United States had launched an attack on Iran without congressional approval, that would have been an impeachable offense. Do you want to review
Absolutely.
that comment you made? Well, how do you stand on that now?
Yes,
do you think
I do. I want to stand by that comment I made. The reason I made the comment was as a warning. The reason I don't say those things lightly, Chris. You've known me for a long time. I was chairman of the Judiciary Committee for 17 years, or its ranking member. I teach separation of powers and constitutional law. This is something I know. So I got together and brought a group of constitutional scholars together to write a piece that I'm going to deliver to the whole United States Senate, pointing out the President has no constitutional authority to take this nation to war against a country of 70 million people unless we're attacked or unless there is proof that we are about to be attacked. And if he does, I would move to impeach him. The House obviously has to do that, but I would lead an effort to impeach him. The reason for my doing that, I don't say it lightly.
The U.S.-led foreign forces in Afghanistan have killed more civilians during a nighttime operation. An Afghan governor has confirmed that 3 brothers were killed in the southern Logar province. He said they were inside a taxi when foreign forces opened fire on them. Afghan authorities have launched an investigation into the deadly shooting. Deadly nighttime operations by U.S.-led foreign forces have caused outrage among Afghans. Well, to discuss that a bit further, we're now joined by Faiz Khurshid, Press TV's correspondent, who is joining us live now from Kabul. Now, Faiz, what more information do we have about this latest incident?
Wakar, these 3 brothers were killed by U.S. Special Forces, and they were on their way home from a wedding party in a nearby village when a group of U.S. forces opened fire on their vehicle, and these 3 brothers died on the spot. And their deaths have once again outraged Afghans. Angry residents of Logar and tribal elders there brought the dead bodies to the governor's compound, refusing to bury them, but they finally led them to rest after the government there promised a thorough investigation into this attack. And now their primary findings of the investigation show that these 3 brothers were not involved in any militant campaign against American forces there. Now, these are the latest civilian deaths at the hands of American forces in this country. Yesterday, 2 civilians were killed when their motorbike was hit by U.S. military convoy in Balkh province in northern Afghanistan, and civilian casualties at the hands of American forces by their military operations, nighttime raids and airstrikes continue to rise. And what's very disturbing for people here, that they're being killed and wounded by all warring groups, and the number of civilian casualties is rapidly rising. Let's not forget that in 2012, 3,000 civilians are said to have been killed, and the figures were attributed to both U.S. forces and the Taliban militants. But it seems that things have not changed very much, and the Afghans are believed to face a tougher time to come in the months to come, because President Hamid Karzai is under immense pressure by the U.S. government to give U.S. forces here immunity from Afghan laws. And if it happens, many here believe more civilian casualties should be expected.
Point. Our legitimacy is reduced when we've got a Guantanamo that is open, when we suspend habeas corpus. Those kinds of things erode our moral claims that we are acting on behalf of broader universal principles, and that's one of the reasons why those kinds of issues are so important. We're going to lead by shutting down Guantanamo and restoring habeas corpus in this country so that we offer them an example. I think that folks made a terrific point that we have to stand for human rights, and that should be part of the trade equation. It is harder for us to do it when we have situations like Guantanamo, where we've suspended habeas corpus. To the extent that we are not being true to our values and our ideals, that sends a negative message to the world, and it gives us less leverage then when we want to deal with countries that are abusing human rights. So I think it's part and parcel with a larger program of us restoring the traditions that made this country great and made us admired around the world.
There are a number of different things that you could do early pertaining to executive orders.
Right.
One of them is to shut down Guantanamo Bay. Mm-hmm. Another is to change interrogation methods that are used by U.S. troops. Are those things that you plan to take early action on?
Yes. I have said repeatedly that I intend to close Guantanamo, and I will follow through on that. I've said repeatedly that America doesn't torture, and I'm going to make sure that we don't torture. Those are part and parcel of an effort to regain America's moral
I'm amused by this. Daniel Freed was the special envoy for closing the prison at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Now, wait a minute. It doesn't look like we're closing that prison, does it? President Obama said, within 1 year I will close it. That was over 3 years ago. We haven't closed it. It doesn't look like we're taking any efforts to close it, so the State Department just reassigned him. And who's going to be taking his place? No one. Quote, the announcement that no senior official in President Obama's second term will succeed Mr. Freed in working primarily on diplomatic issues pertaining to repatriating or resettling detainees appeared to signal that the administration does not currently see the closing of the prison as a realistic priority, despite repeated statements that it still intends to do.
Egypt's president has spoken out against our president and even attempted a power grab, but that hasn't stopped the United States now from handing over F-16 fighter jets to the new Egyptian regime. So, some people are asking, why are we giving away some of our best technology? Joining us now is a U.S. Army veteran and CEO of Concerned Veterans for America, Pete Hegseth. Good morning to you, Pete.
Good morning.
I understand that this deal was already in the works, so these types of things just don't happen overnight. Is it your understanding that we were going to give these 4 fighter jets to Egypt before the Muslim Brotherhood came into power in that country?
That is my understanding. We have given a good deal of both military and economic aid to Egypt since the peace deal since they signed a peace deal with Israel in '79, Anwar Sadat. We give $1.3 billion annually in military aid. They're not just getting F-16s. There's also 200 Abrams tanks in the package. This is a substantial amount. And the reason we have given it to them, a WikiLeaks cable came out in 2009 from the U.S. Embassy there saying this is a down payment on peace with Israel, and the Egyptian regime, whether it was Sadat, Mubarak, and now Morsi, I think, sees this as money that's necessary in order for them to keep the peace. Doesn't make it right, and I don't agree with giving them this military hardware, but I think that's the reason why this money keeps flowing to the Egyptian regime, which is now under the hands of the Muslim Brotherhood.
The hacking collective Anonymous issued a statement warning the world to expect them in 2013. Is that a good thing? This week, let's talk about that.
There's normal course of business that they interfere with. They can write their congressman, they can vote. I work for the government. I don't appreciate people hacking us. We've got people's personal information that has to be protected, that these people, if they decided, hey, I want to take that, I'm like, wait a minute now. That's their information. Because they've decided to take the law into their own hands, this is okay?
Yeah, they should definitely keep on going.
Why are they important in the world today?
Well, because they bring a certain information to the public, because of their activities.
Social injustice is a real thing, and so if something has to be done, I feel like if we have the means to do it, then we should do it.
What about the fact that they do it anonymously? They don't show their face or their name. Do you think that they have to because what they're doing is illegal, or do you think they should show their names and faces?
Well, I think showing their names and faces would just blot them out and blacklist them and stamp them out. So I think that's the reason why they have to be anonymous.
I think they're meddling kids that illegally should not be doing what they're doing. Definitely.
But so do we just let governments and corporations do whatever they want unchecked?
No, not unchecked, but do it legally through the law and follow the guidelines that are set before us. For example, with the United States, we're built on the Constitution, and that's how we have to follow the law through that.
I'm against anything illegal just because I like to follow rules, and I don't want to be put in jail, or I wouldn't want to be put in jail, even if it does mean sticking up for other people.
I think it's a good thing. They should continue to do what they're doing.
What about the people who say that they're just meddling kids?
Well, I think a lot of people are ignorant to the reason that they're protesting. I think what they say makes a lot of sense, and I think people need to do more research as to understand exactly what their true purpose is.
Love them or hate them, Anonymous has promised to put on a good show for 2013. We'll just have to wait to see if they live up to that promise.
Recent reports published by WikiLeaks have revealed that the U.S. government is using highly advanced spyware to watch its own citizens. The system called Trapwire allegedly accesses surveying credit bureaus in many. Private Bradley Manning is allegedly responsible for the largest government leak in U.S. history. After being held without charges for over 2 years, Manning's pretrial hearings finally started today. He's charged with 22 counts. This hour, CIA Director David Petraeus is urging the White House to expand the agency's drone fleet.
Petraeus said that the expansion will allow the CIA to carry on with its mission in Pakistan, Yemen, and possibly in North
Talking about
Africa.
inserting the Army into domestic law enforcement. Senator Lindsey Graham, who supports this bill, says, quote, "The homeland is part of the battlefield, and people can be held without trial, whether an American citizen or not."
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
The original Constitution, I think it is an imperfect document, and I think it is a document that reflects some deep flaws.
Greetings, citizens of the world. Many of you may not know President Barack Obama signed Executive Order National Defense Resources Preparedness on March 16, 2012. Unbelievably, the NDRP is at least as bad as the NDAA, if not even worse. Under the NDAA for fiscal year 2012, signed by the President on December 31, 2011, anyone who is a suspected terrorist or associated forces could be arrested and held indefinitely without trial. The NDRP vigorously makes the NDAA look like a simple law to stop jaywalking in comparison. Under the NDRP, the President now has the authority to seize any resource he deems necessary to uphold national security in wartime and peacetime. This includes, but is not limited to, the following: all farms, meaning all food, transportation systems, clean water, and oil/fuel. The NDRP even goes so far to say that people with skills the government could use may be called upon and forced to work for the government against their will. Understandably, many people may not believe what they're hearing. A link to the NDRP executive order is in the description below. It's encouraged that you read it completely and see for yourself. We face a hard decision. The government is not really listening to us and we are running out of time to act. Please remain peaceful, but prepare in case things take a turn for the worse. We are all anonymous. We stand united. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us. And may one day the innocent never suffer and the brave never die. For on that day we'll truly be free, united as one, divided by zero. Greetings, fellow citizens of the world. We are anonymous. Many of you may have heard the proposal for armed revolution. You as citizens hold the future of the United States in your hands. Before you make a decision, some stuff needs to be clarified. To do so, we must look at the first American Revolution. Back before the first American Revolution, the colonists made multiple diplomatic proposals to Great Britain attempting to find any peaceful solution. However, in secret, the colonists were also training militias, strategizing, and distributing supplies. If not for being properly organized and led, the American Revolution could have easily turned into anarchy, where fear and chaos takes control, at which point nobody wins. By the end of the American Revolution, thousands of good and brave people died on both sides of the conflict. Families got ripped apart by war. In the end, the nation gained its right to exist and freedom was won. The question is if we have reached that same point. It's up to you, the citizens, to decide. Hope for a peaceful solution is never over until you want it to be. Thousands have protested asking for change. Unfortunately, few have offered written solutions. The option to get together and create bills that offer solutions for real change has not passed. If the citizens bring to the government proposals for bills that, if made into law, will offer the solutions everyone is looking for, and the government still doesn't listen, then armed revolution might be the only option left. The options are up to you as citizens. You hold the future of the United States in your hands. Indeed, a lot has changed in the last decade, but one thing hasn't changed. We are all still Americans and citizens of this world. To both the citizens and those in positions of power, remember the wise words of John F. Kennedy.
And if a beachhead of cooperation may push back the jungle of suspicion, let both sides join in creating a new endeavor, not a new balance of power, but a new world of law, where the strong are just and the weak secure and the peace preserved.
It may have been for a different issue in a different time, but its relevance still lives on today. If the possibility of peace is still open, do not pass it up. But if and when freedom is threatened and all hope of peace is lost, do not fear to stand up for your rights. Always remember that only we together can hope to change this world for the better. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us. The government is not really listening to us, and we are running out of time to act. Please remain peaceful, but prepare in case things take a turn for the worse. We are all anonymous. We stand united. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us. And may one day the innocent never suffer and the brave never die. For on that day we'll truly be free, united as one, divided by sin.
What kind of a peace do I mean, and what kind of a peace do we see? Not a Pax Americana, enforced on the world by American weapons of war. Not the peace of the grave or the security of the slave. I am talking about genuine peace. The kind of peace that makes life on earth worth living. The kind that enables men and nations to grow and to hope. And build a better life for their children. Not merely peace for Americans, but peace for all men and women. Not merely peace in our time, but peace in all time.
A time comes when silence is betrayal. That time has come for us. Even when pressed by the demands of inner truth, men do not easily assume the task of opposing their government's policy, especially in time of war. Some of us who have already begun to break the silence of the night have found that the calling to speak is often a vocation of agony, but we must speak. And I knew that I could never again raise my voice against the violence of the oppressed in the ghettos without having first spoken clearly to the greatest purveyor of violence in the world today, my own government.
Violence breeds violence, repression breeds retaliation, and only a cleansing of our whole society can remove this sickness from our souls. For there is another kind of violence, slower, but just as deadly destructive as the shot or the bomb in the night. This is the violence of institutions